Welcome to the workshop room and this panel discussion, the longevity industry and spotting snake oil. I'm Florina Goebel, the president of the Center for Contemporary Sciences. We're working to advance human, animal, and planetary health, and it is my honor and privilege to facilitate this amazing panel with the SENS Research Foundation. So with me is Lisa Fabiny-Kiser. She is the Chief Executive Officer at SENS Research Foundation. She's worked in the longevity field for 13 years, both as a scientist and as an administrator. With an educational background in life sciences and industry experience in microbiology, stem cells, and flow symmetry, Lisa joined SRF in 2010 as a volunteer in the laboratory. And suffice it to say, she is rocking it in her role as CEO. Then we have Maria Entraigues-Abramson. She is currently the Director of Development for SRF. She's been part of SRF since its founding days in 2009, and before that, part of Methuselah Foundation. Yay! She's one of the leading voices in the field of longevity, presenting every year at international conferences like this one in the topics of aging, longevity, and the future of health. And then to my left is Dr. Ravi Jain, Vice President of Research. He began his education at the University of California, Davis, and received his PhD in bioinformatics from University of California, Los Angeles. Under his leadership, as president of CBio, a bioinformatics software development consulting firm, CBio was awarded top 50 San Jose Business Journal's fastest growing private company from the years 2010 to 2012. So let's kick things off, shall we? Thank you for coming, get settled, and I will pass on the mic to Lisa.
Thank you, Florina. We appreciate your lovely introduction. So, hi, we are SENS Research Foundation. I hope most of you know of us. If not, we do a damage repair approach to aging. We are actually the first organization to do that, to not only focus on aging, but specifically the damage repair approach. We've been around since 2009. We were founded originally by 5 founders, but one of whom you probably all know is Dr. Aubrey de Grey. And we have been rolling ever since. We do have multiple programs in-house and externally. We have research internally at our research center in Mountain View, California. We do external programs, which we will showcase in a little bit. And we have a really robust education and outreach program that we're very proud of as well. So I'm going to attempt these slides. So damage repair approach to aging. Metabolism is complicated and it's messy. And a lot of people like to mess around with it in ways that we don't really understand. The human body is very complicated, and we oftentimes don't even know what we don't know. So when you're looking at curing diseases of aging, for instance, and you're working on metabolism like gene editing, for instance, is a great example, you don't really know what you're going to get at the end of the day. Our approach, instead of messing with metabolism at the beginning or waiting for the pathology to showcase itself, which is things like diseases of the typical diseases of aging, like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, atherosclerosis, things of that sort, we attack the damage in the middle. So as it accrues over time, that's what causes those pathologies, and it's where we really focus our efforts and our time and our energy. We have typically 7 strands of damage. So each of these strands represents a specific type of damage that accrues in your body, and a lot of them are relevant to multiple diseases. So to really make an impact on aging, we hypothesize that you have to attack all 7 strands of aging in the body to really see improvement across the board. And we are funding work and research in these areas. If you are interested in about these strands, exactly what those strands are, or how we're targeting them, please go to our website at www.sens.org. We have really beautiful descriptions of what each of these strands are and how we're working to ameliorate them. So our external research programs, those are 4 of our current programs, but we do fund internally as well as externally. If you are a scientist and you want to manage diseases of aging through a damage repair approach, we have a grant-making procedure on our website that you can go to and apply for grant funding. So these are just a few of our external research programs. We also do spin-offs. So it's not just about doing the research is important, but what's more important is making sure that these therapies translate into humans and we get them in the clinic and on the market So it's actually improving people's lives. So these are some of the spin-offs that we've funded through the years. I'm going to pass it on to Ravi.
Thanks, Lisa. So in this, in the field that we're in, right, Life7.io has done sort of a remarkable job in collating all of the companies that are geared towards extending health and lifespan. Am I loud enough?
There you go.
Okay, great. And that compendium is actually on their website, and it really sort of highlights how far and how prolific all of these companies have been and how far they've come. I'd recommend you go to that website and check out sort of all the activities that are taking place, including the damage repair ones, others that are messing with metabolism and such thing. Would you mind, next slide, thank you. So really then, the thing we want to focus on today are the sort of misconceptions that there are in the longevity field, right? So when we think about longevity and when we sort of describe it to the public, oftentimes that particular word comes with certain notions, right? And what we want to focus on, at least at the SENS Research Foundation, what we do focus on is that longevity is not immortality, right? It's not transhumanism, it's not extending poor health for longer. Our goal is actually to make our healthy time period of our lives much longer. And it's not a one-pill solution, and it's not just for the rich, right? So this is our endeavor is meant to be equitable and accessible to everybody. Next slide, please. So how do we tell science from completely rhetorical, assertive pseudoscience crap? What you have in front of you, and this is going to be hard for the people that are online, watching us online, streaming, is what you have around here on the seats are these packets. And so what we're going to do here in the next 10 to 15 minutes or longer is have a discussion about examples of things that are good science and examples of things that are crap. And so I think there are 5 examples, or there are 5. Great.
There are 5.
Actually, yeah.
If I want to do what? Oh. Yes. So the example number 1 is 1 page only, and then we have 5. The third one is a long one that is a scientific publication, or maybe it's not. We don't know. We're going to discuss that. And then we have 4 and 5. There's 5 total. So we're going to start with the number 1. And I don't know if you, Ravi, want to talk about it? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to. So the first example that you have, especially for the folks that are streaming, watching us online, is a paper, a Cell Reports paper. The heading of it is Selective Ablation of Primary and Paracrine Senescent Cells by Targeting Iron Dyshomeostasis. So this is a peer-reviewed publication. So I think, well, is it, right.
And what does that mean to be a peer-reviewed publication?
How do you recognize a peer-reviewed publication?
I think there's, are there no, okay.
We're just going to leave that up so you guys can have access to our information. But so what we want to really highlight here is how you review things that you might find online for accuracy. So we say that this is a peer-reviewed publication, and there's ways that you can assert whether something is actually a peer-reviewed publication. This one was published in Cell Reports. So that is a very well-known journal. So that gives you a good indication that this is actually maybe worth its salt, that it's been peer-reviewed. It has, I think, good affiliations, good references. It has an adequate abstract.
Yeah, and it actually mentions the authors and their affiliations. That's something that is interesting. I mean, important to look at, that you have that you see the authors and the affiliations. That's one of the things.
So based on this, would you guys say this is crap or pseudoscience? Just this particular?
Crap or pseudoscience?
Oh, I'm sorry. Crap or real science? Ignore.
Crap.
There is only crap and pseudoscience. No, just kidding. So crap or real?
So, real. Can we have a vote here? Who thinks this is real?
Good. Yeah. By the way, we're going to ask you to participate.
Yeah.
I apologize that we are asking you to participate. However, I want you to note that this is before lunch, so you should all be well caffeinated, right? So,
Anybody want to share why you think it's real science? What is that you saw that made you?
I mean, I also wasn't exactly from cell reports.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, all the things that you said about it being from cell reports and whatnot, but you know, official institutes, well established names, but also I think it looks like they did some pretty well fleshed out mechanistic assessments and whatnot. So I probably would like to look at the figures generally, but that's just a good sign if you see that in the abstract.
That's great.
I also want to point out that if you look at that paper, you'll notice that the first author, in fact, the whole paper was done by our laboratory in Mountain View. So we are not crap. However, I do also want to say that every example in your hand is not a manufactured example. It is a legitimate example from our community, from the longevity community. So if you're watching this and we're using one of your things as an example and we're not exactly warm about it, come talk to us.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, because, I mean, even within the most prestigious journals, especially sometimes because they like high impact stuff, which is often wrong, there is a lot of, you know, real science that is not very good science. And, you know, I used to study Alzheimer's, and you can find a paper saying that literally anything is connected to Alzheimer's in a reputable journal. So is there have you guys found a good way to get a sense of not just whether an individual paper is reliable, but whether it represents sort of the state of the field or consensus or a legitimate viewpoint?
Thank you. The wonderful thing about science is we're really just as good as the current status of what we know, right? Science evolves. Do we have papers that we sort of say, okay, this is par, or this hits a certain point, or is a belief around a model that we accept and know to be true? I tend to stay away from those kinds of things, right? Because this particular area of research is evolving as rapidly as it is, it's hard to come to a consensus right away, right? We're sort of, when we think about senescence, right? How old is the senescence field really, right? It's not very old. So we don't have 6 decades of senescence research to back up into a full model. And so therefore, you have to evaluate every paper sort of on its merits.
I think good signs of good papers are looking at so not just journals that are well reputable, but also institutions that are reputable, scientists who have maybe multiple publications in that field so that they've established a body of work. If you have experience in the field, looking at their methodologies and understanding what they are and if it makes sense. I'm going to go on my platform here, my soapbox for a second. I have a really hard time with mouse work. I think it's pretty well known that mouse work doesn't really translate well into humans. And it's frustrating to me to see any claim about specifically a longevity human ailment that is proven by mouse work. I find that highly suspect, and I am much more suspicious of those papers, for instance. But I think when you're looking at even peer-reviewed publications, I think one, if it is peer-reviewed in a good article, in a good journal, in a reputable journal, that's a good place to start. Right? That's much better than some of the other examples you're going to see here. But then there are other things to take into consideration. I also think that if you're a scientist and these are your fields of study and you're looking at these papers and you're looking through the methodologies, even though they are published and peer-reviewed, if based on your experience, they're still crap for whatever reason, I think contacting the primary authors is important. For those of you also listening who aren't aware of this, if there's a lot of paywalls to get to journals, right, to find full articles, but those paywalls don't apply to the primary scientist. So if you can contact the scientist directly, the primary author, they will oftentimes give you their paper for free. So if you're having a hard time getting past that paywall, contact the author. They want to spread the word about their work. They want to talk to you about it. If you have never talked to a scientist about their work, talk to a scientist about their work. They will never stop talking about their work. It's something because they're deeply invested in, right? And you can learn a lot just by talking to them. So that might be a good place to go too, if you're really questioning this work. But I think it's valuable that we as a society get to have almost a democratic say in what's going on. Now, I'm not saying that everyone gets to have an opinion and all opinions are right, because, but there's something to be said about informed opinions contradicting published work that may not have the basis that we want, that needs to be there for real proof. Anyway, I think if that helped, I think we're gonna move into our next example.
Excellent, yes. Our example number 2, for those people watching online, is pulled from a website. The first section of it is an About Us, and it states, I'm not going to read the whole page, I'm just going to read some highlights. The highlights are, our groundbreaking platform allows insights into, light and my old eyes. Insights into the unique health. Can you read this? I can't.
Health data.
She got it. Go ahead, Maria.
Now we unlock the potential on human longevity, one precise and personalized journey at a time.
There we go. A second highlight says, using modern deep learning techniques, we have created a novel way to leverage health data, and now we unlock potential to human longevity, one precise and personalized journey at a time. Then they have a revolutionary health data platform, and then they have concierge longevity programs as unique as you are. So as you review this and you apply the rubric of crap or real, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Who would like to go first? If no one raises their hand, I'm going to pick them. Great.
Usually if you're trying to bring in deep learning with no context, that's typically crap.
Excellent.
Can anybody pick out some interesting buzzwords in there?
Where you have AI is expected to contribute as part of the platform.
If you are not familiar with AI, using the term AI is great, but AI is a hugely broad field, hugely broad. So how exactly is AI going to impact something? I think the lack of specificity is a great tell. Anybody
Excellent.
else?
Other thoughts?
So I don't have a science background, but even just as a marketer, it just seems like a lot of broad words to try and get people in, and there's nothing to back it up. It's just kind of let me use these big scientific words to get people to think I'm legit.
And it's kind of obvious they're selling you something, right? There's no doubt about that. Which usually, if you're reading about science, you're not expecting to be sold something.
So I don't really even think they're making a serious claim to anything, which is why I'm can you call it pseudoscience if there's nothing to debate as true or not? It seems because I could see something like this, there's probably 20 companies that are trying to do something similar, right? And maybe one of them is actually good, but I just don't know how you would make an assessment without seeing what their product was. So
I guess their claim is longevity programs to make you younger.
Right over here.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of terms, not just AI, but also genomics, pharmacogenomics, epigenetics, a lot of big words are listed with no context about what they're for. It's even weird to see genomics and epigenetics and all of those capitalized. That's not something you would ever see in a scientific paper. It gives the impression that the person writing this sort of copied and pasted those words in.
Excellent observations. So let's take a vote. Who thinks this is real?
Real science.
Real science.
It is real, right?
Yeah, it's real. Science. Who thinks this is not science?
Something else we haven't talked about yet is that there are no references on that page.
Right.
They're making big claims with absolutely no context.
citations or references, yeah. Hey, and we're not against treatments like supplements and things like that. Well, at least I would say, depends what we're
Do
talking about.
I get to go on another
but-
soapbox?
Yeah.
Well, you heard Brian Kennedy this morning say, you're taking supplements. If you take one at a time, you know what the effects of those things can be that can be measured. If you're taking multiple ones, you really don't know what you're doing, right, to your body.
I think it's really worth more talking about supplements, that it's really hard to decipher whether or not supplement companies are crap or real science, because again, there's the interconnections that are difficult to measure. And also, our bodies are all different. I mean, we all have common themes, we're all humans, but it's really difficult to know who needs what. I am perpetually vitamin D deficient. That's a great example. I need to take enormous quantities of vitamin D to just maintain what is considered a normal level. But I'm not sure that, actually I'm positive that not everybody would have to take the sheer amount of vitamin D every day that I do and might actually overdose on it. So when you're looking at supplement companies, you need to be looking for individualized work. You also need to be looking for studies, like real scientific studies. And I also want to suggest that if you're interested in longevity, while supplements might help you in certain ways, like again, if I didn't take vitamin D, I'd be in a world of trouble. But you also need to think about that, yes, this might give you a little bit of a boost on your day-to-day, but it's not actually going to significantly increase your longevity or your healthy lifespan. So if you're looking at true longevity movement, you need to be looking more at the science and less at a pill that they're trying to sell you.
Well, but also, if you are deciding to take a supplement that you think is going to benefit you, what we're trying to look at here is how to identify what's the evidence behind what you're taking, so that you have enough evidence, enough science backing what you're taking, and not just a sales pitch that is convincing you with these crap words or these pseudoscience words. So there are things that I also take supplements because I have genetic mutations that cause some problems in my body, like my homocysteine levels go up, and I have to take certain vitamin Bs to keep it at a good level, and I have to do blood work.
I've just been told that we are taking way too long.
Oh,
I'm so
are we?
sorry.
Oh, I thought we had an hour, but maybe we don't.
Okay.
Never mind about my supplements. I'm great.
Do you have a quick comment?
Yeah, so I think evidence is, of course, necessary, but as Brian Kennedy talked about, like these multiple combinatorial aspects of taking supplements, I guess, for a simple example, if we have 5 supplements, there are almost 32 possible combinations. So I guess there's a need for self-experimentation also in that way, right? Because we cannot do 32 studies and then wait for which 5 combination of supplements is needed. What do you guys think about that?
Oh. No, go ahead. Were you going to respond?
Somewhat. So, I mean, I think when you get into like the issue of how immense the number of combinations are, I would say that like I don't necessarily see very much value in self-experimentation because, well, like data is not the plural of antidote, and a lot of this, like if you're doing something by yourself and it works for you, great. I don't really think that's like at all scalable. So
yeah,
I
and
think,
N of 1 studies are interesting for the one that the N is.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the next one.
How much time do we have so we are clear on that?
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
So we're going to blow through these really fast.
Yeah, in fact, the next one is the one that we should focus on. If we don't get to the rest of them, it's fine. So the next paper that we're looking at is Anti-Aging Mechanisms of NAD+, by Stephen Harrington. It is several pages long. It has references to citations, and this is the whole paper right
has
here
an
that you
abstract
see.
summary. Yeah.
Right, has an abstract, has a summary, and it is.
Is it a real peer-reviewed publication or is not?
So.
Okay, so just show of hands real fast. If you can look at this real briefly, if you think it is real science, raise your hand. If you think it's crap, raise your hand. Nobody has much of an opinion. Great.
How do you define science? And to me, this is just a blog post. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, but
We're looking for a scientific journal because
Right.
then there are specific criteria, like we said before, we would be looking for. But this might be just like a person who's an enthusiast who read a bunch of papers and putting his opinion out or trying to do like a literature review on his own.
But
There you go. You nailed it.
they made it look like a scientific paper, the structure. I mean, not for people who know how to look, but this is what we're trying to educate here, right? So it has citations, but they are not there, the numbers, but there's nothing in there, the structure, the abstract, everything looks like a scientific paper, right? It's not.
So here's an example of someone trying to pull the wool over less experienced folks' eyes, right?
In fact, there's an FDA advisory on that article. We don't have time, but I have it here. I was going to give it to all of you, but explaining why, which I can give it to you before you leave so you can read exactly what the FDA found there that is saying it's not legit.
Okay, can we take a couple questions? Do we have 1 or 2 questions? Anybody? Yeah.
I would just like to briefly respond to my friend over there and throw out kind of the opposite side of the argument for self-experimentation. I'm running an experiment on myself right now, berberine for LDL and A1C. I've seen a 47% reduction in my LDL at 3,000 milligrams of berberine, attempting to replicate studies. Now, that came with side effects of now at 3,000 milligrams and elevated liver enzymes. But I've attempted to replicate these studies and proven out these results. And my point is not to just talk about my own anecdote, but that it's important that we take responsibility as individuals. And I think that part of that is self-experimentation.
Sure, but you said that you reduced your LDL, but what kind of LDL? Because the current research isn't saying that all LDL is bad for you. There's actually specific permutations of LDL that's important. So are you actually reducing the LDL that's negatively impacting your life? Or are you just reducing general LDL, which might not impact your health outcomes at all?
That's a great question. Working with my doctor, he was absolutely stunned by the results. And was like, what you're doing is fantastic.
Man, I have so many soapboxes. Doctors are so uninformed. Doctors are so uninformed.
I agree, but let me come to my point. It's not just N of 1, my own result. My point is that supplements have the opportunity to democratize access to certain interventions. I have a friend of mine who went on statins and experienced memory loss from it, which is a known side effect. If the efficacy of berberine, which has been proven out with studies and now meta-studies, were to be accepted, he would have a naturopathic alternative to statins, which didn't work for him. And he has a severe cardiac family history. His father died at 53 from a heart attack. So I just take the opposite approach that maximum responsibility means, yes, looking at the research, but be willing to experiment on yourself and not lean entirely on the research because it is a lagging indicator for individuals.
So yes, I agree that it's a lagging indicator for individuals, but also I am not going to stand up here and tell people to self-experiment when everyone is complicated. So you know yourself best. Don't rely on the research if you don't have research experience. Talk to your doctors, but also realize that your doctor might be uninformed. So seek out alternative opinions, but that really has less to do with our box here. Is there any other questions briefly? We are out of time, but if there's any other questions. Can we find more time?
We're trying.
Frankly, yeah, we're around. So if my team could stand up, please. My team, stand up. There's Dr. Lily Fishman. She does our education program. She's amazing.
Where's Kelly?
Kelly abandoned us, but she's our director of operations. There's the 3 of us here as well. Please find us, or if you want to, I guess we could just move over to the other room. Can I get a nod?
We didn't know we had this little time, so we
knew. We just had poor planning.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
If we could, we'll move over there. If you guys want to keep chatting with us, we'd love to talk more. Clearly, I have too many soapboxes for one workshop. Thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. And thank you to Lifespan.io for hosting this amazing event and for putting us in front of a camera.
Thanks everyone online too.
Big hand for SENS Research Foundation. Thank you.